and welcome to another episode in the series of Impact. And today we have another special guest with us. And this gentleman, we go a way back in our youthful days. We used to work together. Then we didn't see each other for a long while. And now he's in the other on the other side of the pond. He's into digital technology, information technology. And, it's a big change from where I know him. He was into banking and he's moved from that. And I just want to say welcome to Allan Hall. Mr. Allan Hall, how are you doing, sir?
I'm doing very well, Craig. And thank you for that intro. Yeah, we go way, way back. Been a long time. We both started out in banking and we then went off and did our own little things. But yeah, it's been a long time.
It's what, over 30 years?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I've been in IT over 25 years and I only got into that after banking. So yeah.
It's over 30 years and we haven't seen each other for a while, but we had some good times in those days.
Yeah, we had some adventures for sure.
I was just looking at some pictures just last week, and I saw some pictures of us in our foot when we used to play football back in the days in our jerseys. I'm like, wow.
Yeah.
That was before I had all these grays.
Yeah, we all getting up there. I don't even have hair, so.
Yeah. The thing is, and I'm putting on mine because they say they thought I didn't have any, so I'm just showing that I do have some.
Okay.
So anybody here, Allan, listening to us, watching us, and want to know who is Allan? Who is Allan?
Well, Allan is a father, a husband, a friend, a confidant sometimes. I started out, like you said, in banking, but before that, I came from very humble beginnings. My parents always made sure that though we didn't have much, that we went to school.
Yeah.
And back then, we didn't know that we didn't have much. We just enjoyed life. And my mom, who really shaped me to be the person that I am right now, she, always was friendly with everybody. When she cooked, she made sure she cooked enough for the neighbors. Even as an adult, when I was still going down there and bringing stuff for her, back then I didn't appreciate the type of person she was.
Yeah.
But I was just thinking that I bring stuff in and you giving it half of the way, But that's just who she was. And, I looking back at it now, I'm like, she is a large part of who I am right now.
Well, you say you didn't have much, and I wonder when we say that, who said you didn't have much? It wasn't what we had, because I can relate to your situation. Wasn't what we had what we needed, or enough?
Yeah. You're perfectly right. We like to compare ourselves to others, but when we are around everybody that we grew up with, looking in from outside, you may say that, that situation is not great, but I felt I had everything I needed. I never went hungry.
Yeah.
I went to school every day. There wasn't a lot of, we made our own toys,
Yeah.
So, and we had fun doing it. We had these little boats and stuff like that. So, you're right. We had everything we needed, and society sometimes put labels on our lives and say we're poor and all of that. But in spirit, we're very rich.
Yeah, definitely. So Allan was the little adventure man. What was he like when growing up as a child in primary school or even younger? As far as you can remember, your childhood?
I remember quite a bit. I used to get into some situations that I shouldn't have. You know, I used to challenge myself to do things I shouldn't be doing. I remember one time when I was at primary school, and back then, well, you noticed like at everyone else, like the schools were like all concrete and they had several floors. So
Yes.
first floor would be like grade one and second floor. So I went to the third floor and I wanted to prove that I could jump off the third floor.
Ah,
And I tried it and I hurt myself.
yeah.
I broke my arm and my mom was pissed and but stuff like that. I got into these little things, and I used to watch shows and think that I'm that person in the show, like those cartoon characters. I'm like, I'm invincible, I'm strong, and I can do anything I want. You know, sometimes too, I got into some trouble. I remember I had a friend, and I haven't heard from him in a while, but we we left and went somewhere we shouldn't have at the time. We got involved with some people that weren't good, people that were smoking stuff back then. And my mom didn't see me for that day, and
Mm,
she pretty much the entire neighborhood
yeah.
went looking for me. I came home the next day, but you would think the first reaction would be, back then, what are you doing?
Mm,
Try to hit you and stuff like that. But no, my mom hugged me and she was crying and like, where were you? And I said, I'm sorry. And I explained what happened. And, and that never happened again. But
yeah.
those are some of the things that, I got into. And even with you, like, while we were working, I crashed the car.
Yeah, well, it wasn't that an adventure. First time renting a car and me, and that before you know it, it was written off.
Yeah. I was like, Jesus, man.
Young drivers and stuff. But now you mentioned about jumping off those rails and in school. Nowadays, it would have been classed. Either school would have been in trouble for health and safety and all those things.
Yeah.
But those days, we didn't think about those things, did we?
Mm-mm, mm-mm. No, we didn't think about those things at all. I didn't even think those things were anywhere near our minds back then. But um, maybe they should have been. I wouldn't have gone jumping off that thing.
Yeah, but that also made us be creative and adventurous, and did a lot for us in terms of trying new things. Um,
Yep, you're perfectly right. Because when I look back on my life, and I'm sure you can, um,
I can really relate to it.
relate to this as
Yeah.
well. But we were allowed to express ourselves.
Mm.
We were allowed to do so much more with interactions around amongst ourselves. When I look at my daughter now and my son and realize how they're so much into the screen, the
Mm,
technology,
mm, mm.
I sometimes say to her, go outside, She said, my friends are on the phone. Like, yeah, but you have a bike. You haven't ridden that bike in forever.
Mm,
Outside, but we were constantly outside. We were constantly doing things. We were next door. My mom be calling me, "Hey, come for dinner" and stuff like that. Well, we were just constantly exploring, building character, building ourselves, and a lot of that is missing now. I sometimes worry
mm.
about the social interaction side of our
Yeah, yeah,
children. This technology, and I can attest to that, is very good. It
mm,
helps us. It's everywhere now. You can't do anything without it.
yeah,
But the negative side of it is that I think it's making us not as sociable as we should be as a society.
yeah, yeah.
Even dating, why go out there and meet people when you can just meet them on an app? Yeah, it's great.
Yeah, yeah, you're right. It's good for things that we are doing even right now, being able to communicate and be in touch. But you're right. It's a struggle, and we'll look a bit more into the impact of technology on your side and what you're doing. But Growing up in school, was there a teacher, and I'll talk about your mom later on, but I just want to know about any teachers who made a difference to you?
Yeah. There were two. There was Miss Richards. That was my grade six teacher. And she was like my second mom.
Mm.
Um, and, you know, we would get seriously disciplined when we didn't complete our assignments, like homework. We get homework routinely, and then she would like go down the line, go down each row to see who did their homework and who didn't. And if you didn't go your homework, you'd get a little
Yeah.
smack, you know. But on the other side, when she realized that you're trying
Mm.
and you're making effort, she'll always tell you that,
Yeah.
and make sure you feel good. And I really appreciate that. And I used to sit in the back of the classroom, and she told me that I needed to come to the front of the classroom because she realized that I was making an effort and I was sitting amongst people that didn't want to make that same effort.
Yeah.
So she moved me to the front, and it made a huge difference. Around that time, we were doing the exams called Common Entrance that would move you to high school.
Yeah.
And I tell you, I don't think I would have passed to go to Kingston College if she wasn't my teacher,
Mm.
because she made me better.
Yeah.
She actually, intervened. Because if I was still sitting in the back with those guys, I don't think, because they didn't pass, and I did.
Yeah. Yeah. She saw the potential in you, and just early on, I was with a group of education leaders, and we're having that same discussion about the impact that teachers make, not by doing much, but it's about those strategic placing children in the right place inside the classroom, moving them from one side to the other to make a difference, and being able to spot that is very important. So that teacher was there, and who else was the other teacher?
A lot of people, when I say this, they think I'm not telling the truth, but I remember my teacher from basic school.
Mm,
I remember her name was Harrison.
yeah,
Um, and she too was like a second mother, because I remember it very clear in my head being there. She teaching me how to read the clock, teaching me how to do little things. I remember crying a lot when I got dropped off, and that was forever ago. But I remember it.
mm,
There are key moments in your life that you do remember, regardless of what it is, because I can't tell you what I had for lunch 3 weeks ago, but I remember.
yeah,
But I remember those things.
mm,
And she was very impactful in my life. She was also a friend of the family, and she looked out for me.
yeah,
So my mom never had to worry when she sent me to school, because she knew that I was in good hands. And sometimes she even walked me back home, because it's like 5-minute walk from where I was at school to where my home is. And I remember her. Sadly, she passed away probably about 20 years ago, but
mm,
I still remember her to this day.
yeah. So it's just those significant people who lay the foundation for you to then move on to secondary school, high school, and you were successful. How was it? How was the transition into secondary school, where become a bigger boy and
Mm.
having more influence around you?
Yeah, the transition was not bad, because when I started out in high school, secondary school, high school, um, the first couple of days, it's like everything else. You're getting used to the situation. But I quickly met people and friends that lived in my area, and I'm like, oh, I know you. Oh, I know you. So it became easier. And then I realized very quickly too that what they were teaching me in seventh grade was stuff that I already knew. So I kind of excelled at that.
Yeah.
Um, High school was great. I did well there. I never looked back. And you know, the the friends I made there, I still communicate with a few of them now. Um, it was a very, very good part of my life. The connections I made there, the stuff I learned there. And I even saw a few of the teachers that I had then after I left. So I can't complain. And then I moved from there and on to university too, where I met other friends too, which was really great. I still communicate. I knew some I have friends there that I communicate with and I like to align myself with. And there are others too that I don't want to align myself with.
Taking the wrong path. Yeah.
They took the wrong path,
Mm,
man. And it's sad because, you know, it was great. Those were great days when you were studying with friends and having food around you and
yeah.
and then you realize that same person that you used to break bread with and just went down a wrong path and
Yeah.
pay the consequences for it. Those things hurt you here.
Yeah.
Because life, I always say consequences matter. You know, you have two roads to choose. You go down the road that takes you to, a good living, a good life, and another road that takes you down to the path of destruction. And that's what they chose.
Yeah, yeah, but life definitely, based on consequences. You talk a lot about your mom, and so no doubt she is very special to you. Why? Tell us some of the reasons.
My mom is everything to me. So my mom and dad had me
Mhm.
late in life. So by the time I got to high school, my dad was already retired.
Yeah,
He wasn't working. My mom then picked up the slack and she started to do odd jobs. She actually, Dunoon Technical High School was pretty close to us. So I remember her going there and getting a job to cook in the cafeteria so that she could, support the
right.
family.
Mm.
And while doing all of that, she still came home every evening. And then she cooked again. She took care of all of us. Uh, she spent time with me, made sure I was okay, and me and my sister. Um, my mom was so special. And on top of all of that, she was a good Christian.
Mm.
Yeah, she made sure we were going to church every week. We grew up as Seventh-day Adventists, and every Saturday we were at church. My
Yeah.
mom made sure of it, and I remember um, my mom also preparing food the day before so that on a Sabbath she'd have everybody over,
Mm.
church, friends and everybody over feasting and enjoying. Fried fish was a staple. We had fried fish every week.
So who was the fisherman? You?
Oh, actually, my father actually did some fishing.
Okay.
He 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 claims that he's a fisherman. I have a feeling he went and he bought those fishes. but I give him his due. We never saw him actually doing anything.
Yeah.
Let's say that. But he said he taught him, so let's say he caught him. But
Yeah.
yeah, my mom was great, man. She was everything. And I remember in 2016 when I got the news because I was here
Hmm.
that my mom passed away.
Hmm.
I was broken.
Yeah.
I don't think I spoke to anyone for like 2 days. I was like distraught. Um, and I went down there for the funeral, and it was just nonstop crying because I just didn't just lose a mom.
Yeah.
You know, I lost a confidant, someone that I spoke with every day.
Hmm.
Someone that made me who I am today. And
Yeah.
just talking about it right now make me feel like I want to tear up again because it's my mom.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
not like my mom. And she's a wonderful person. I know she's looking down at me right now.
So, and what is it you think you have taken from her that you see you do and you realize, oh, this is just like my mom. Is there anything like that?
Strangely enough, what I used to accuse her of, I'm doing now. I like to cook.
Yeah.
I have a grill there, and I also like to experiment. And my neighbors, when I cook, I share. I sometimes bring them over. I'm like, hey, I'm going to be doing this, and I come over, and I get there and I cook. 'Cause a lot of them, I don't know a lot of Jamaicans
Yeah.
where I live, but they like Jamaican
The
food.
food. Yeah, of course.
So it's always a treat when I cook and I share with them. Um, so that's one thing I get from my mom. And I also later in life learn how to be a good listener like my mom.
No, okay.
Um, I didn't even know I was until my people that I associate with tell me that, you're easy to talk to. You listen to what's happening. And that's something I definitely got from my mom.
Mm,
Because
mm.
I can't remember doing that young when I was young. But yeah, she's something special. Good Christian, I wish that I was as good a person as her, but I
Mm.
try to be every day. She loved God and loved people, loved sharing. And that's why I know that she's gonna be there with him when he returns.
So she have left an example, a great example for you to follow, and you're already doing that in her footstep, and you'll continue to do that. Now, what about your dad? Would you say you what is the side of him that you have taken on?
Stubbornness, you know, and the work ethic. My dad was a hard worker. I remember him going to work like me before daybreak, coming back pretty late, working hard every day, driving trucks. Sometimes he would take me when I'm not at school to work with him. And those days were great because I didn't get to spend a lot of time with him
Yeah.
growing up because it was always working. But the days when I actually got to spend time with him were great. He would also he liked to work with his hands. So he did like benches and stuff like that. He'd paint and stuff like that. So whenever he's doing stuff like that, he'd like involve me in that process. And some of that kind of rubbed off on me because I too like to be handy
Yeah.
and do stuff like that around the house. Um, but there's also the feeling I have, and I don't think it's anything negative, but I just think I had a much closer relationship with my mom than my dad.
Mm, mm. Well,
It-
you're a mommy's boy.
yeah, and he was always there.
Yeah.
And I'm not taking anything away from the relationship I have
Yeah.
with my,
Yeah.
it was a different relationship. And then, he grew up like a macho guy, a man's man.
Hmm.
Um, I never knew his parents, but I knew my mom's parents, so I knew grandparents on my mom's side.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
he and I guess that's probably why he was the way he was. His mom, and he told me this. His mom died in childbirth,
Okay.
and his dad raised him until he was 15, and then his dad passed away.
Mm.
So from then, it was other relatives raising him, and then he started working. And one thing I found out that I didn't know when I was younger is that my dad was a part of the the Royal Air Force,
Okay.
World War II.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so he fought in that war. I don't know. My dad was born in 1919. He was not young. He's not a young guy. When he died, he was 99 years old,
Oh, just a short of 100.
just short of 100. Yeah, so he died 2 years after my mom did. A couple, yeah, I think 2 years, 3 years after my mom did. Um, and yeah, that too was rough on me. Yeah, I miss both my parents as anyone would,
Yeah.
but I can tell you for sure that both of them had a very, very, very good impact on my life.
Do you see yourself in terms of the training you got or their type of parenting? Do you use any of those style with your children now?
Hmm. Yeah. Um, I sometimes maybe a little bit too much because I sometimes need to accept the fact that times change
Mhm.
and how we were disciplined growing up and how we were treated growing up that is not really applicable to how we are right now.
Yeah.
Um, and in this world of social media, in this world of a lot more information and how people interact, I have to adapt. So, when I was growing up, I couldn't say anything like, as Jamaicans would say, you couldn't back talk your
Yeah.
parents. Man, that happens on a regular right now.
Yeah. Yeah, that's children taught nowadays, isn't it?
Yeah, children
Finance for
nowadays.
something.
Yeah, even at where I work now at the schools, how teachers will say to a kid, you're getting detention. He's like, oh, I'm not going to detention. I'm like, oh. And if the teacher says you're going to detention, you're going to detention. But yeah, it's a different world, and you have to adapt. And but it's part of being a parent.
Yeah.
You,
Yeah.
you just have to understand that it's your child, your children, and you have to find the best and appropriate way to deal with them. And help them to grow in the right way. Once you instill the right beliefs and the right
Values.
values in them,
Yeah.
then it's up to them after that.
Yeah. I constantly say that, with children, when they're born, you have 942 or 46 weeks with
Yeah.
and you start with control and you're moving each week you're losing the control and you're getting closer to influence and is what you do to influence to help them with the influence you have on them that will make them the person who they are. So I guess your parents had that influence and you try to instill that on your children. Now, let's move on to the work world before I get into, you have done so many things in before being director of information technology now, working in an education sector. Um, Tell us your journey on there and what you gain, you learn during the way.
Sure. We spoke about me starting in banking. Back then, there was not a lot of computers for me to do what I need to do. I remember we were using an old IBM thing that had a blinking prompt. We had to log in, and if you had to check balances, we would have to find this big binder with the balances from the yesterday. And if you go and cash a check, then you have to write it all in the binder. So, but from then, someone took a chance on me um, after I left banking. Well, while I was still at a bank, I was with Island Victoria Bank at the time, a short-lived bank because they're no more. So while I was working there, I used to help people with printing and stuff like that. Just because I want to help them. I'm like,
Yeah.
"Can I help you?" And then a girl that was working there, her husband was an IT director at J. Nephew.
Mm.
And she said to me, he's looking for someone. I'm like, yeah, but I'm not, an IT person. I just help out here, but I'm really a bank. I really work in banking.
Yeah.
And she said, talk to him anyway. And he came by one day and she introduced me and we talked. He said, let's have a conversation. I went, had the conversation. Harley liked what he heard and he hired me on the spot.
Mm.
Now, what wasn't great was when he hired me, he had put me to work with guys who are seasoned IT professionals.
Mm.
And they didn't appreciate the fact that I didn't know anything.
Uh, yeah, because I didn't know you to be in IT. I know you to be in banking and business. So
Right. So I was kind of snubbed and pushed aside for a few days. And I said to him, the boss at the time, that I don't know if this is going to work out. Because in order for me to learn, somebody has to show me something. I need to see and experience it. But no one wants me to touch anything. No one's going to show me anything. They just want me to sit over there.
Yeah.
So he called a meeting right away. He says, this has to stop. And that they had to show me everything. So that changed. I learned. I got better. I got promoted after a couple of years to supervisor, supervising those same guys
Mm,
that I came there and saw. It was a good experience. Then I moved on to another company in Ocho Rios as their IT manager, a distribution company called National Meats and Foods. And that was a very good time for me too, working on that side, dealing with tourists and foreigners and stuff like that. Um, and that's when I decided that, I need to make that change and come to this side because my wife was coming this side anyway.
okay.
So I decided that, you know what, I'm going to come this side. It was a little rough to
So
begin with.
you're moving from Jamaica. You've done all of your work and you gained that experience in IT in Jamaica. At that point, did you have the IT degree or master's? You didn't do
No.
any studies.
Well, funny enough, uh, funny enough, while I worked at Rainview, I
Hmm.
never had any formal IT training.
Yeah,
All the training I had was on the job.
on the job. Yeah.
Um, then I started with a few colleagues, decided that I'm just going to do some work on my own. So I started to do courses in the afternoon and the nights after work. And I did some certification, some other formal training. And then by the time I got to here in the United States, I decided to do my MBA in IT project management.
Okay.
And that kind of legitimized my status as somebody who knows something about what they're doing.
But you know it anyway because you have been trained on the job.
Right. I can't tell you how many jobs I got turned down for when I came here because they didn't see a proper paper trail
Yeah.
of academic qualifications.
Mhm.
But thankfully, someone decided to give me a chance as a network supervisor when I came here. And the agreement was we'll try you for a month. They say we're not offering you the job yet,
Yeah.
but I'll try you for a month. We pay you hourly, and we'll see how it goes. If it works out after a month, 2 weeks into it, they offered me a job contract. I'm like, okay, I guess you like what you saw. Yeah. And they offered me a contract, and that kind of kicked off my career here because I then got promoted 2 years later after that to IT manager. And since then, it's been nonstop. I decided, I don't know if I'm jumping the gun in your interview,
No,
but
no, no. Go ahead because I was interested to know that in that significant moment when things kind of shifted in your part.
yeah, so the job I had before I got into education was working with displays and traveling with a team of persons who would do presentations and stuff like that. And part of that involved me traveling all over the country, all over the United States,
Yeah.
setting up shows, doing training. And then I said to myself, there's got to be something more to this. Because I remember helping my son in school and looking at the technologies that he used and saying to myself, maybe that's the way to go.
Mm.
So I started looking for opportunities in technology in the K-12 sector. And I came across a school in Philadelphia that was actually looking for someone. I went in for that interview. I told them I had no experience in working with schools because that was a requirement for them. You had to have that experience. I told them I didn't. And again, they said, you know what? Everything else looks good. Let's give you a try. And they gave me a try. They liked what I brought to the table. And they gave me the job. And one of the first things they asked me to do was to research new technologies for the school.
Mm-hmm.
And because they wanted to go, they wanted to get to a level where other schools in the area were. They felt that they were lagging behind.
Behind. But before you go on, I don't want to miss that part where you went for a job that you know you went. It wasn't for
I
you.
keep doing that.
Yeah. I mean, because that's a moment to realize that because you see a job or see something
Yeah,
is you have to have all these
yeah.
qualifications or these it shouldn't stop you from trying.
It
Present
should.
about presenting yourself.
Yeah, yeah. It's about presenting yourself, promoting your best features.
Mm.
You know, um, and letting them know that you do everything possible to reduce that gap that's currently there. With proper training. Working very hard and doing everything you can to get up to speed with whatever is missing. You know, I yeah, I know. It happened twice, but it worked out.
Yeah, yeah.
Right now I can say this current job that I have, doing what I do, working in education technology and the students, it's probably the best job that I've ever had. It's the best feeling knowing you're doing something that is actually meaningful.
So tell us about what you do now and how you're making the difference to those children and your workplace.
Sure. Um, Funny enough, I started 2019
Mm.
at school. And you know what happened next?
The pandemic.
Pandemic hit. So in the middle of me trying to get the school to a modern world, into the modern world, getting all research and technology, implementing stuff, because I started implementing things. I was training staff, I was deploying stuff to kids. The pandemic hit.
Mm.
And then I had a new goal. How can I make sure that these students will still be able to learn and not fall short of anything?
Yeah.
And how can I make sure that my teachers will still be able to communicate adequately to these students? So I sat down with my boss and realized that a lot of schools were doing like the whole Zoom thing, on Microsoft Teams, and we want to do a little bit more about that. We want to make the true classroom experience. So, we decided that the school that we go to, our kids wear uniforms. A lot of schools in the United States don't.
Yeah.
We still want them to wear the uniform at home.
Mm.
We still did the attendance, even though we did it electronically.
Yeah.
We introduced new software. We embraced the whole online textbooks thing that we had going on. We made sure every student had a Chromebook. We shipped it to their homes,
Mm.
Because the government was giving out grants, and we had 1,200 students at high school, and we had another 1,000 students at the elementary school.
Oh, no.
So me and my team, I had 4 guys working with me. We got these Chromebooks, we prepped them, and we sent them out. Those that we couldn't send out, we set up a stage in here for the parents to come in
Oh,
and collect them. So we wanted to make sure that every student had access to technology. What we also did was working with the government, made sure that those families that did not have access to technology had it.
yeah.
We were able to provide internet for them through the school at home. So that was another thing that fell under my umbrella I had to manage. Uh, I think during that whole period, it was the hardest I've worked in my life. But it was it felt good because you know that you were making an impact.
Yeah. Yeah.
I keep using your words, but I'm sorry.
No, that's what it's all about. That's what we do. Impact. It's an impact conversation.
Yeah. And it was great because we pushed so much new technology to the students. There were, the younger ones, those that were like, 4, 5, 6 years old, we gave them iPads with games, educational games because those kids aren't going to be learning the stuff that we had in our student information system. They want
Yeah.
to be doing fun stuff while learning.
Yeah.
So we had to find a way to make sure that continues, because it's great when the teacher's in the classroom. But what we realized, because I sat in on a few classes too, to realize that sometimes the kids drift, you
Yeah.
know, they stop listening, the attention span goes. So we had to find ways to make sure that we kept them engaged. And for those smaller kids, some of the games that we introduced, the educational games, was really helpful. It's also helpful that we found teachers that actually communicated better with them. Some of them aren't so good. But it's all about making sure that we had the right tools to make sure that these students kept engaged. I always say COVID was one of the worst times for the country, but I
Yeah.
thought, but I think it's one of the best times for educational technology, because I think it raised the bar. Because after that period was ended, we couldn't go back. We right now, all our kids still have Chromebooks, and they'll always have Chromebooks.
And do you still do those educational games and all those things? Are
We
still a
still do
part of
all that. The curriculum still includes all that, and we're adding to it. We're constantly looking for stuff like electives for our higher grades that are online based. We introduce music technology classes. I remember, and this was my personal project. I was proud of. My boss came to me and like, you know what? Wouldn't it be good to set up a lab with about 50 computers, 50 Macs, that's just dedicated to music technology? And I'm like, I like that. So I had to go out and I had to research, what are the various music technologies out there?
Yeah.
You know, and I worked with a music teacher who didn't know a lot about it at the time, but by the time we were done with him, he was like a master. So we put in 50 Mac book Airs, we loaded up with software, we brought synthesizers, it was great. And I was
I,
proud of it.
No, I am just so jealous hearing you talk about, because I work in education system, and today I had that very same conversation with these leaders. I'm saying COVID came a perfect opportunity to go digital. We went digital, and most schools now are back to the paper and pen and forget about that time. And it's just so difficult to know that we are in a digital age and we are still moving back. So it's great to hear of
Yeah.
the system that is there. How did you find the transition for teachers? Because I know children, it was a bit easier. How do you find those teachers who were a bit hesitant, reluctant, wasn't tech savvy? How did you deal with those?
Yeah, there are two types of teachers. There's the type of teacher that embraces that, and then there's those that are, want to stay in their traditional way of doing things. And it was a little bit more challenging for those. So I found myself um, working with groups of teachers, not just me, but my
Yeah,
team.
yeah,
So, we had trainings. I bring them down. We have like a room where we have like a lab set up. Sorry about it. That room where a lab set up, and we'll have training, and we'll show them the advantages of doing something this way versus that way. How much more better it is. Um, for the most part, a lot of them embraced it.
yeah,
But there are a couple of them that still wanted to regress. And that's where it's not just me that will have to make that change possible. It's also the principal and the
yeah.
head of, you know. So working with them, we made sure that that transition, those persons actually embrace the technology that was being introduced, because it can't just be me. It has to be their department heads, the head of English department, the head of the science department, head of whatever department it is, working with their teachers to make sure that that happens.
So the
And
the leadership team was integral in getting
yeah,
used that part, and that is a key, because if leadership is not on board and not inclined to go that way, then you're not going to be able to be successful.
correct.
And what would you say a difference? You know that you look back, it's 2019. We are almost 5 years now since COVID. Um, what level do you see the children, and how is the results of the children? Did you gain? Was there
I
difference?
can I can tell you for sure that the levels have. This is something that we talk about a lot at the school. How the students are now at a level that they've never been at before. Um, their test scores are off the charts.
Mm,
Yeah, it's ridiculous, and I think part of the reason is because a lot of the tests that they're doing now, the exams that they're doing now, are all digital based. They're on tablets, they're
yeah,
on books. So it's no longer pen and paper. And I think that the students prefer that way of doing stuff. Um, I can tell, yeah, it is unbelievable how these students. Because I've been looking, I looked at the test scores because part of my job also is to make sure that the transcripts and the report cards and all those stuff, are prepared per
yeah,
quarter, each quarter. And I can tell you, looking at it year after year, during COVID, it kind of flatlined a little bit,
yeah.
but after that, it just went like that. It's incredible.
And what is the what are you seeing with the advent of AI, and that being in the news recently? How do you cope with AI? How do you deal with that?
AI is tricky because there's ways to use it for our benefit.
Mhm.
But there's also the part of it where um, it can cause it'll allow students to be dishonest.
Mm.
Um, we have experienced in the early days of AI when we were just exposed to it, where students were creating entire paper, writing entire papers using AI.
Yeah,
So I have implemented a few AI detection tools that scans their submitted work. Um, we have two ways for them to submit work. They submit work through the student information system, which we use PowerSchool, and we also have them submitting work through Microsoft Teams. And both those tools have a built-in, well, it's not built-in, but an add-on
yeah.
that actually scans the submitted work.
Yeah, so my question: You're using AI to detect AI.
Yeah, because I don't know if you noticed, but there's a way that how the language is,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
it looks for that how they speak.
Mm,
And so for instance, we have a tool called Turnitin,
yeah,
and Turnitin now has Turnitin originality. So their tool of choice for years was similarity.
yeah.
Now they have originality that checks for original content. So that, and they have an AI detection tool.
Mm,
So when we submit an assignment, it automatically goes through and it checks, and you know that, or it checks for the similarity,
yeah.
but it shows you the percentage of AI that's in it, and in some cases, 100%. It's weird. I'm like, it just pretty much just took what he got and just put it in there.
Again, today I had that same discussion again, and it was about technology. And I always refer to it or compare it with a knife and
Yeah,
water. It can harm you. A knife can harm you. Water can kill you just the same. But we have grown up with it as a child, and we still have it in our house. And we have children in our house, and they have not died. You might
yeah,
hurt themselves now and then, but they have not drowned. So,
yeah.
what did we do with that? With the water and knife, it's the same thing we need to do with technology to make sure that we keep our children safe. We teach them how to use it safe. We teach them how to deal with any dangers that come about. And I think with AI moving so fast, I don't know how you see the future with that.
Well, the thing is, there's always going to be something else.
Mm,
We're going to get a handle on AI soon enough, and we're going to find ways to make it a part of life. And we're going to have tools because there are tools coming out every day
yeah,
to combat AI. And then the AI writers are writing something, made their thing better. But aside from that, there's going to be something after that we have to pay attention to.
yeah,
There's always going to be something. So all we can do is to make sure that the system that we have in place now are set up the best way possible, and that there's also educational. Make sure that the audience, as teachers and students, are educated enough to understand how to use these technologies to
yeah.
their, not exploit it, but use it in the right way.
Yeah, I think that is going to be the key, and that I've said is always the key is about how we teach our children, teach people to use technology. Is that always going to be good? It just depends on whose hand it is in and what they're doing with it. So definitely the way forward. Alan, we're almost at the end of our interview here, and I just wanted to ask you about what in life has made you what is it the greatest thing that you think apart from your family and your parents and thing, what else have had an impact or influence on you?
Um, I guess my actual personal relationships with people.
Mm,
You know, I realize that there are no two people that are the same, and that there's always something you can learn from someone.
yeah.
I've learned in life to swallow my own ego. There was a time in life when I thought, that you can't tell me I know everything,
Mm,
but I realized quickly as I get older that I have to allow myself to learn from others because there's always something else to learn.
yeah.
Um, I have relationships now with friends and people that I treasure, um, because these people help me along the way.
Yeah.
You know, they may not give me money or or anything physical, but the advice here and the advice there, and the support here and the support there. Those things count as well, and those things are also very impactful, again on that word, on my life. And you said it: family, my wife, my kids, my parents, even my boss. I
Mm,
have bosses that were really there for me, the ones that took a chance with me when probably someone else wouldn't have, led me to this where I am now. And you know, I I I don't think I would change anything, because I think everything that I've experienced in life, I think, has made me the person I am today.
okay.
I've had losses, I've setbacks,
Mm.
but I've also had a lot of rewarding experiences that I wouldn't exchange for anything.
I just one thing that will stand out from our discussion or talk today is that go for whatever is out there. Don't let anything stop you because you have done it twice, and I'm sure you'll do it again. So, so,
Probably.
so what next is it for Alan? You're in the digital space. You're making a great impact on children education and it's watching the progress that they're making with technology. What is the next thing? 10 years from now, what are you hoping for?
I've been actually silently trying to write a book about how technology and education work hand in hand.
Mm.
Uh, I started putting the pieces together, and hopefully, in a few years, there's something out there. I My only problem with that is that, being a technology based book, the technology is going to be involved in it.
Yeah.
but I'm trying to make it, as generic as possible. Just trying to get the point across that we're in a world now that you can't have one without the other.
Yeah.
Technology is an integral part of learning, of education, of everything. Children right now, I see kids, I have a niece that's 4 years old, and the things that she's doing on a tablet is just crazy. So, we're not going back, we're going forward.
Yeah, yeah. I remember the days when we usually take pictures and then we have to take it to a friend Patrick and say, go to the photo studio, and he developed it. And a week or two later, we get some pictures. Now children go, click, I want to see it. Technology is at the moment notice. So you're definitely right. And probably what you should do, you should probably get AI to write your book and make sure.
That's funny. That's a good one. Yeah.
It was a pleasure speaking to you. I mean, we had some great times back in the days, and you haven't changed. You're still Mr. Allan. You all see the funny side of life, and it was great catching up with you. I can't wait to hear about or to read that book, but definitely I will be.
Sure.
I like what you're doing with technology, and I'm in the technology space and as well in the education sector. So I'm going to be tapping into you and see how we can collaborate and get some more ideas from you and see what we can do, because you're far advanced from where we are at the moment.
Yep. Anytime, man.
Yeah.
I'm constantly looking at new ways to do things. So yeah, for sure.
Yeah. But so there you have it. We have Allan. We want to thank you again for being with us and for sharing your experience and letting us know that our buzzword is impact, and seeing the impact that you have been having. So thank you again for joining us.
My pleasure.
Yes. So there you go. Another episode in Impact, and I look forward to you joining us on our next episode. So until then, see you.